This is the Sunshine Cathedral perspective. Missouri Republican attempts to block gay pastor from library board. A Republican Party leader in St. Joseph threatened to bar elected leaders from running for office as Republicans if they voted to reappoint a gay pastor as a library board member. The Kansas City NPR affiliate KCUR reports that Buchanan County Republican Central Committee Chair Steven Greiert emailed St. Joseph's mayor and council regarding Brian Kirk's library board seat renewal on August 4th. According to Greiert, if the city council members vote to advance his reappointment, the Republican Party would not accept filing fees from them in the future if they run for other Republican positions. Kirk's renomination has been controversial since conservative Grace Calvary Chapel members started criticizing him this summer for supporting LGBTQ+ rights. Senior pastor Josh Blevins had led the charge against the gay pastor. Kirk is the pastor of First Christian Church and a volunteer on the library's board. As part of Greiert's proposal to Mayor John Josendale, he suggested he dismiss people who affirm LGBTQ+ rights and replace them with people who would equally represent both sides of the issue on transgenderism and drag shows and gay literature in the library. Although elected positions locally are nonpartisan, Greiert claimed the mayor and city council members ran on conservative values and with support of Republicans, which they courted. So libraries, that's the new battleground. Not so new anymore, but I think they've seen that they get some traction out of that. And so those attacks continue. I think it's funny that you should fire people who support an issue and replace them with people who can speak to both sides of it. What? I mean, I guess the people at Grace Church or whatever, they represent both sides of it. That's just double talk. That doesn't make any sense to me. This is another attempt for LGBTQ+ erasure. That's what it is. Just make people invisible, dehumanize them. This is another form of censorship, or an attempt to. And the thing that, well, it would amuse me if it weren't so hateful and scary and mean-spirited. But what is ironic, not amusing, ironic, is that these incredibly ungracious actions are being led by people who attend Grace Church, Grace Calvary Chapel Church, and yet they are exhibiting very little grace for people that they don't understand or don't like. And that's fine. You don't have to like anybody. You're entitled to your prejudices. But now that people are trying to take over libraries and schools to enforce their prejudice, that is what is so horrifying. And there doesn't seem to be any end in sight. But I hope I'm wrong about that. I hope we're all disgusted with it, and this all comes to an end pretty soon. But that's probably naive thinking on my part.
So this guy wants to have a volunteer fired.
Right.
He is a volunteer of the library, giving of his time back to his community, and have him replaced with someone who would then speak to all the issues. Mm-hmm. I wonder if he's speaking to all the issues in his congregation every Sunday morning. My guess is probably not.
No. So,
yeah, he may want to take a dose of his own grace.
I don't understand how people don't see how this is history once again repeating itself. Libraries were always the battleground when groups were trying to suppress other groups. I take people back to even before I was born, the 1930s, when book burning in Germany became the norm. What are people afraid of? Are they afraid that we might learn something more about our world and become better human beings? Are they afraid that their views are not held by everyone? Guess what? None of our views are held by everyone, and it makes us better humans, better people in this country and in this world if we understand better what other people are doing and saying. What the hell?
Yeah, 1930s, yes. That was before you started school, not before you were born, but it was before you started school.
And I love you dearly.
I'll give you that. But honestly, I always heard and I heard it and I could repeat it because I'd heard it so much, but I really didn't until this stage of my life understand what it meant. When people say, well, the fascists always attack the intellectuals, the academics, I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. So I always think there's like two professors somewhere that have discovered something radical, some amazing physicist or something, or philosopher, and they're after that guy. No, they just mean your fourth grade history teacher and your sixth grade geography teacher and anybody that's just teaching the diverse history of the world. There are people who worship this way. There are people who don't worship at all. There are people who have these political views. There are people who have this kind of family structure. So they're going after libraries and public schools and have news outlets that are basically just propaganda. So they go after the journalists, they go after the intellectuals, they go after the academics, and because those are the people who have information. Yeah, and information, truth, diversity. Those are the enemies of fascism.
And I don't want to beat a dead horse on this one, but when are they going to go after the Bible?
Oh, I'm waiting for that.
If they're talking about all these stories that are in libraries that they don't want their children reading, just read some of the stories in the Bible. Don't even do anything with it. Just read the story for what it says, and let's see how much they will then say, well, we need to get rid of the Bible now.
They think, though, that they own the Bible. So they think they can control it, that people aren't really reading it. Or if they read it, they read into it what they were told it was supposed to mean. And so since they think they own and can control it, well, that's not yet. If people really did read it and read it as they would read anything else, just like they've never read it before, just open up and see what it says, and they would see the polygamy, and they would see the war, and they would see
people dressed
they would see slavery, and they would see drag, and they would see same-sex lovers, and they would see people with hundreds of spouses. And they would see all kinds of very interesting, fascinating soap opera-y kind of stuff. Yeah. And it would disturb them. But what they see and promote are the things that are allegorical, that they pretend are literal, and then they've so focused on that and pretending that snakes talk and people walk on water and that 90-year-old women have babies. So while they're trying to literalize myths, that is the red herring that keeps them from noticing, wait a minute, Solomon was having sex with 1,000 women, and that David was a rapist and a murderer, and that Mary was knocked out by not her husband. And it doesn't matter that you say it was by God; it still was not her husband. You know what I mean? So but they think they own it, and because they think they own it, they can control it. Once it gets out, once people start really reading it, they will have a problem.
Oh, I hope. This is the Sunshine Cathedral perspective. In America, you don't have to go to church to be a Christian nationalist. Millions of Americans are leaving church never to return, and it would be easy to think that this will make the country more secular and possibly more liberal. After all, that is what happened in Northern and Western Europe in the 1960s. A younger generation quit going to Anglican, Lutheran, or Catholic churches and embraced a liberal, secular pluralism that shaped European politics for the rest of the 20th century and beyond. Something similar happened in the traditionally Catholic Northeast. So, as church attendance declines even in the Southern Bible Belt and the rural Midwest, history suggests these regions will become more secular, more supportive of abortion and LGBTQ+ rights. But that is not what is happening. Declines in church attendance have made the rural Republican regions of the country even more Republican and, perhaps more surprising, more stridently Christian nationalist. Just as liberal Christians in Massachusetts and Connecticut stayed liberal when they dropped off their church's membership roll, so conservative Christians in Alabama and Indiana stay conservative even when they're no longer a part of a congregation. In fact, people become even more entrenched in their political views when they stop attending services. Well, and the sky is blue. It's, for me, silo thinking. People are a part of their own thought process, and if you're a conservative, you're going to be a conservative whether you're in church or outside of church. And they've got their media arm that helps them remember. There's this thing, Fox News, and when you listen to it, you're constantly being told that the way you think is the way the world should think. And then there's always the Orange Menace that's been indicted 4 times, but they still over 30% of Americans, not just Republicans, 30% of Americans still support this fool. What can I say? Now, we've got help. We've got hope, because here we are, Sunshine Cathedral. We are a group of queer pastors, out, proud, and loud about it. We speak truth to ignorance, at least we try. And I just want to remind people of what our affirmation is. I'm just going to read it the way we say it every single Sunday. God is love. Kindness is our worship. Compassion is our prayer. The sacred value of all people is our creed. And healing the hurts, oh, this is the one. Healing the hurts caused by hatred is our mission. So, my friends, there is hope out there. There are churches, there are people, there are groups that want you to understand that we believe in a God of pure love.
The thing about the Christian nationalism is that's the religion anyway. I mean, you can call it Lutheran Missouri Synod, you can call it Southern Baptist, you can call it Pentecostal, you can call it Church of Christ, you can call it whatever, but that's the religion that they've tried to spiritualize. Maybe because of COVID, maybe because of some scandals, I don't know, maybe they're not as interested in giving up their Sunday mornings. But it was never about Sunday morning. It was always about the hatred, about the control. I grew up in the Bible Belt. This isn't new. It's new that they have their own television station. It's new that they have multiple political candidates. It's new that they sometimes are in charge of the whole government. That's new. But these church going, or maybe the wife would go to church and the husband wouldn't, or the kids would go to church till they're 18 and they didn't have to, or whatever. But church was the excuse. Church was the veneer. Church was the mask. The guns and the racism and the homophobia and the women should know their place in the home and the domestic violence, all of those things were their religion. And then they said something about Jesus. And, that was supposed to make it, be what, and it was, but no, the nationalism, which is not patriotism, although patriotism is the favorite aunt of nationalism, but nationalism, which is we are somehow, because of where we landed on the planet, better than wherever anyone else landed, we're better, and we have to keep it pure. So we can't have a lot of immigrants, we can't have a lot of diversity, we can't have a lot of diversity of thought, and so it's very insulated, it's very right wing, and that's what nationalism is, and it's not healthy, and it's very scary. But it isn't that these religious people became nationalists and then gave up religion. It's these nationalists were pretending to be religious and now apparently are doing it less so. But the nationalism is their religion.
Yes.
I think the indigenous people who were here before we here had it right. And a certain cohort has just messed this up for all eternity. And we're still paying for it. And so I think if we look at that and break it down, all the dismantling that needs to be done around that, if we just got back to the core values of let's love Earth, let's love life, let's appreciate things for who they are, and let's respect people for who they are, instead of just having things being taken away from us, then I think we'd probably be in a better place.
You might have been a little too subtle for some people when you're saying a certain cohort. Were we meant to hear white supremacy? White supremacy is the problem? Is that what yeah?
A name by any other name is just
I just got to say it out loud. You gotta call it what it is.
It is what it is. And hear what you want to hear.
I like that.
Oh, it's me? Popular Republican presidential candidate distanced himself from religion. Vivek Ramaswamy calls for a renewed belief in God and country on the campaign trail, listening, quote, God is real, end quote, as as the first of his campaign's 10 fundamental truths, even as he fields repeated questions from conservative voters about his own Hindu faith. These interactions underscore Ramaswamy's unique background in the field and how voters on the trail have been receiving his message. The other Indian American in the race, former Governor Nikki Haley, was raised Sikh but converted to Christianity. In Hinduism, there are several gods and deities. Christians believe in one God and the teachings of Jesus. When Terrell Campbell, 57, from Fort Dodge, Iowa, asked what religion Ramaswamy believes in, he said, "I am Hindu, and I was raised Hindu. We raised our kids in the same traditions as well. I happen to be well versed in the Bible because I went to Christian high school, Xavier in Cincinnati," end quote. Ramaswamy, who frequently invokes stories from the Bible on the campaign trail, has also drawn parallels between Hinduism and Christianity, saying religions like ours have stood the test of time. Having attended a Jesuit high school, Ramaswamy says he has read the Bible more closely than many of his Christian friends, a sentiment that some have praised him for.
So I'll be very honest, it's not a hard question at all. So in our faith tradition, Jesus Christ is a Son of God. I know that is different than saying he's the Son of God, but that is my view of Jesus Christ. He's got our family. Do we worship in churches? Yes, we do. Is that compatible with our faith? Yes, it is. One true God in many forms. So that's different, and I understand that.
That is different. The only way to heaven is through Jesus Christ.
I think that is the path. That is a path to heaven, is the way we look at it. But belief in God is what we say. Yeah. Belief in the one true God. That's the way.
You know, I think he's on a path. He's on a journey, and good for him for sticking to what he was raised and what he believes, and there's more to the story. I appreciate his comment in the video, though. It's like when the guy says, you can only get that, but there's only way to get there is through Jesus, and he was going to say, that's a way. There are multiple ways to do this. I've always thought of all of that like being at a well. We all come to the well from, just like this round table. You can't see the table. There's a round table in front of us, and the round table for me represents we are all here at the table from different angles, from different perspectives, but we're at the table. And I think what we bring to that table, as well as what this candidate is bringing to the discussion, is let's think a little bit differently here. And how do we broaden our horizon? And this is the land of the free, land of the brave, land to believe the way you want to believe without being shamed or guilted. But it kind of goes back to, can we just respect people for who they are and what they bring to the table?
I have a little different perspective on that. What we just saw here with him and some anonymous person, the candidate and some anonymous person, having a theological discussion. And I'm actually on Vivek's side with this. He says our religions are tested. Actually, Christianity and Islam are both pretty young still in the world of religions. Baha'is even younger. I mean, that doesn't mean they're not amazing, but Hinduism is the oldest religion on the planet, even older than Judaism, which is super old. And so it's a little, whatever. But also, they're having this amazing theological discussion, and Vivek is actually, I think, the wiser in the discussion, except who cares? I don't care what my president or governor or mayor or city council, I don't care what his theology is. Unless his theology is, God wants me to be mean to people and exclude people, well, then your theology is getting in the way of liberty and justice and freedom and so unless your God is telling you to be an asshole, I don't care what your theology is. So that he's right about God is universal and all-inclusive and even as a Hindu, I can respect Jesus, but other people with different ideas are still part of God and loved by God. I agree with all of that and don't give a shit about it from my president or governor or lieutenant governor or weed commissioner. I mean, whatever. So that level of theological discussion is part of a political process terrifies me.
And I think that this guy would be very comfortable at Sunshine Cathedral because he speaks a language that we speak in many ways. Never mind that he is a politician.
I don't think he likes gay people.
No, I don't think he likes gay people. And still, he talks about Jesus being one of God's children, not God's chosen child.
Yes, the gatekeeper.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
The,
The bouncer at the pearly
I'm
gates.
telling you, he also has his own 10 commandments.
Yeah.
I think that that's very deliberate that he put it in that way so that people would say, oh, well, he's got tablets that he bought from the Mount also.
And your number one on your platform, your number is God is real. Okay. Oh, fine.
The universe is real.
Yeah.
I go,
Lyme disease is real. I mean, what?
And let's just
I hate that that's a political thing.
apparently I've been telling people very often these days, and the sky is blue. Isn't that shocking? I'm sorry.
And if God is real, who is he playing to? He's a politician.
Yeah.
He is a politician.
He's a politician.
He's speaking to a specific group.
So he's going to speak to that specific by naming and claiming that God is real. That's going to speak to somebody.
Yeah.
Somebody sitting there who says, oh, I'm with him because he speaks my language, regardless of his politics, but because of what they hear. He's a politician.
But he is speaking to people whose accusation against a Protestant for 8 years was that he was Muslim.
I was getting ready to take that walk. Yes.
Who he's trying to talk to are people who thought one of their biggest dings against someone is to identify him as a non-Christian, when in fact he was Christian. And in point of further fact, who cares? My whole thing was, I wish he was a Muslim. Just because wouldn't that be groovy if we were the kind of country that would have a Muslim president? But he wasn't. He was a member of the Trinity United Church of Christ in Chicago. He was a Protestant. But so he's trying to tell those people that I'm a Hindu, but I love God. I love Jesus. My first thing is God is real. He's got a mountain to climb.
Yeah. All right. This is the Sunshine Cathedral perspective. Judge rules California schools must recognize religious student group. Student clubs associated with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes will once again be officially recognized by public schools in California's San Jose Unified School District after the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals ruled Wednesday that they had been wrongly excluded from campus life. As per the ruling, the school officials cannot treat religious clubs differently than other student organizations, even if they impose faith-based restrictions on their members. Wednesday's ruling is the latest development in a legal battle that dates back to 2019, when school officials put new restrictions on clubs associated with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes due to concerns about the club's views on LGBTQ+ rights. School officials believed that such a policy violated the district's non-discrimination rules and, as a result, revoked the Fellowship of Christian Athletes' official status on campus. The clubs could still meet on school grounds, but could not keep their club funds in school accounts or be listed in the yearbook. In April 2020, 2 students filed a lawsuit seeking to restore the faith-based club's previous status. The district court ruled for the school district, but that decision has now been overturned by the 9th Circuit in Wednesday's ruling. Callahan wrote that concerns about anti-LGBTQ discrimination, while important, cannot be used to justify unfair treatment of religious clubs. Does that mean that all of our clubs can equally serve on college campuses? If I decide that I need a drag club, are they going to support that? If I decide that I want to start a nudist colony, will they support that? I'm being silly because the argument, it just drives me crazy that we spend so much time talking about things that really don't mean anything to the world.
No,
if you want to have a club, have a club.
Yeah.
If you want to be on campus, be on campus. So what?
I desperately want for there to be a fellowship of satanic athletes.
Oh.
And let's see how let's see how the ruling goes then. This privileges evangelical Christianity, and it dehumanizes LGBTQ people.
Always.
And so that's what I mean. Would they allow a white supremacist club? Probably not. Hopefully not. Would they allow would they, if the Christian athletes decide that they need to say mean things about Muslims or Jews, would they be silent about that? I mean, this is obviously problematic. I think they had it right. Like, you can meet here. We're not going to handle your funds for you. and then you could argue about whether or not it should be in the yearbook. But I think they had it right. We'll give you space, and then you do you, but we're not going to put our name on it. I think they had it right with that, but that's never good enough for the power keepers. And so, no, we're Christians, and our values are the ones that matter, and our values are that we don't like gay people. And so the gay people can't be part of our club. We can discriminate. And then for the ruling to say, yes, and we know that's problematic, but we also can't be mean to the religious people. Well, I want the statements to show up, to stand up, and let's see how universal that ruling is.
Well, damn Christians. Come on, people. If you're going to,
I think that's why Jesus never was one.
Well, that's that. But if you're going to make space, make space for all people. Don't the discriminatory stuff that continues to this day just somehow still amazes me. In the world where we have so much going on, and for this group to treat this group differently, when it should be a place of learning, a place of camaraderie, a place where we all come together. You learn your stuff, we learn our stuff, and we come together. We talk about what we learn. We share our experiences. But that to me is a second-class citizenship that's happening right there.
That's the strange thing about college today. It used to be where diverse groups had an opportunity to speak their minds and learn from each other. Comedians that used to go on college campuses could not go near a college campus today. Can you imagine George Carlin on some college campus right now? It just won't happen. Yeah. And that, I think, hurts us in the long run because people don't get a chance to hone their skills, to be able to have a discussion about something that makes them uncomfortable. And I think that's what it is, that people get uncomfortable and they don't want to hear about it. They don't want to talk about it. So we got some work to do.
And so do they do.
Amen.
This is the Sunshine Cathedral perspective. How the transformation of superheroes can teach us all. At Sunshine Cathedral, we're a different kind of church. We believe God loves everyone and love wins. And in that love, we learn why many other churches would tell you that you are not worth God's love. Every Sunday in the pulpit, I challenge people to think differently. And hopefully that message is heard loud and clear.
Next up, we are excited to tell you about our adventure with our global fellowship. In 2024, we'll be going where the hills are alive as we explore Austria and Alpine Europe for Gay Oktoberfest. Space is extremely limited, so make sure to go to happeningout.travel/sunshine to reserve your space now.
Would you like to join the Queer God Squad on a special winter cruise in 2024? Well, now you can. You can visit Cozumel, Mexico, Grand Cayman, and Ocho Rios. And you can even add an open bar and Wi-Fi. Join us by going to happeningout.travel/sunshine.
That's today with the Queer God Squad. We want to thank you for joining us. We're here daily at 3 p.m. to have some fun and talk about what our LGBTQ+ community is talking about.
Sunshine Cathedral is the world's largest progressive queer church. Progressive, queer, and God are words that naturally should go together. And we are all in this together. Remember that
you are God's miracle, not God's mistake.
Until next time, we are the Queer God Squad. Goodbye. Bye.
Next up, we are excited to tell you about our adventure with our global fellowship. In 2024, we'll be going where the hills are alive as we explore Austria and Alpine Europe for Gay Oktoberfest. Space is extremely limited, so make sure to go to happeningout.travel/sunshine to reserve your space now.
Would you like to join the Queer God Squad on a special winter cruise in 2024? Well, now you can. You can visit Cozumel, Mexico, Grand Cayman, and Ocho Rios. And you can even add an open bar and Wi-Fi. Join us by going to happeningout.travel/sunshine.